Welcome back to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to tell you that you should never, ever trust a giant corporation ever.
Yeah, we all thought Phil Spencer was our close personal gamer bud, huh? But woo, as soon as the belt's tightened, he's got to go kill every beloved studio he's got.
Oh, Papa Phil dumpstered some of gaming's most beloved developers this week. And when we say dumpster, we're not being disrespectful. We are super bummed about what Phil Spencer did here. And guess what? He will do this again.
No, he's not done. Corpo CEO is going to CEO. There's tons of fallout from all of Xbox's layoffs to cover, plus more actual real news about the next Switch this time, and some heartening news about the relative performances of Hades 2 and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. All coming up on the Inside Games Roundup.
All right, let's kick things off. The biggest story by throwing to the staff member that voted least likely to become a CEO at his high school prom, Brian Gaar.
Accurate. Yes, welcome to the newsiest roundup ever. First off, after Microsoft stunned the gaming industry with a round of really devastating studio closures, more could be on the way. This comes from our old buddy Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who says that Microsoft is planning even more closures after the announcement this week that they were making a massive round of job cuts.
Those job cuts included closing down Arcane Austin, the makers of recent Redfall, Dishonored, and Prey, one of the best games ever, and Tango Gameworks, which just last year made the very well-received Hi-Fi Rush. Another amazing game, soulful. Also kind of about how corporate acquisitions drive the humanity out of the arts, so that's fun. Another studio, Alpha Dog, was also shuttered, and a fourth, Roundhouse, is consolidated into existing groups.
Head of Xbox Game Studios, Matt Booty, told staffers that the company's studios had been spread too thin and that leaders across the division had felt understaffed. He said they decided to close those studios to free up resources elsewhere.
The middle managers are stressed, so we have to let go hundreds of people, is what that...
No, that's the line goes up, Lawrence. They fired everybody for money. The answer's always money. Come on.
But they can't even come up with a good lie. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut. Damn it.
We had to save money by firing the people who actually do work. Yes.
Yeah.
Both Arcane and Tango were pitching new projects because they just had games that came out recently. They were looking to staff up, and Booty indicated that was part of the reason for their closures. But yeah, Bloomberg reported that people within Xbox have been told more cuts on the way, sadly.
These moves were shocking, even to the most cynical, I think, especially because they didn't really square with what anyone from Xbox has been saying over the past couple of years. Just last year, Xbox marketing boss Aaron Greenberg said how happy they were with the success of Hi-Fi Rush, writing, "We couldn't be happier with what the team at Tango Gameworks delivered with this surprise release."
Mm-hmm. And I bet Aaron Greenberg was surprised as was the rest of them, I want to say. And then immediately after the closures, Matt Booty said in internal remarks that Microsoft wanted, this is the most insane thing I think I've ever read. Matt Booty said they wanted more smaller budget hits like Hi-Fi Rush. So the solution is to close the studio that made you exactly the game that you wanted more of and succeeded last year. This doesn't make any sense. It literally makes no sense. I don't understand why Matt Booty even said it.
That's the thing. I don't even work there, and I'm galled by reading that. That's just an affront, I think, to the intelligence of anybody who works for Xbox Studios at this point.
Great job, guys. You made a hit game. We want more of them. You're fired.
Yeah. Jeez.
And to cap it all off, Xbox President Sarah Bond was asked about the closures at a Bloomberg Tech panel, and her answer was just so rambling, corporate-y, it just immediately went viral for the wrong reasons. It was just a word salad that said nothing. She did a good job of sounding beleaguered while saying it, though.
I didn't even type it out because it just made me angry and confused, 3 words in. So if you want to watch the clip, it's all over. But yeah, so why is Microsoft doing this? And I found a quote from a former insider in the company that kind of shed some light on it. This is from Brad Hildebrand. He's a former Microsoft senior PR manager. He blamed the closures on 2 things: Activision and Game Pass. He wrote on LinkedIn, of all places, that the growth of Game Pass has slowed, quote, way down, and the amount of revenue it's attributing to games isn't keeping up with the budgets to make them. Not a surprise. He added, so far the big bets on driving new subscriptions, Redfall and Starfield, haven't spurred near enough growth, and there's not much on the horizon that is likely to restart the momentum.
Okay, well, that was fine back when Xbox was basically a rounding error on Microsoft's books, right? That, you know, Microsoft makes trillions of dollars, and Xbox is just this tiny little division that was doing fun stuff. But after Microsoft's acquisition spree that included Activision, which was a $69 billion purchase, he wrote, quote, Xbox is expected to start making that $70 billion back, or at least cut expenses to the bone and then some, while they try, which is exactly what they're doing.
Hildebrand went on to write that big name IPs like Call of Duty will be fine. Shocker. I wonder how the executives will be through all this. But goes on to say that, quote, all those smaller studios making really interesting games are going to fall away, simply because as good as games like Hi-Fi Rush are, they're never going to make enough money to make up that $70 billion hole that Xbox now has to dig itself out of.
But Lawrence, this is just bad business. They just did bad business. They made a huge acquisition, and now they're cutting a bunch of other, this is bad business in the sense that it's bad PR, it's bad for all their employees, it's bad for morale, but it is good for one thing, money. Fuck.
I also wonder if they bought Activision to keep that IP away from anybody else, like just so it could be theirs, you know, and nobody else would get caught. I don't know.
Well, that was the going story behind their acquisition of Bethesda, is that Starfield was getting shopped around and Microsoft saw themselves falling behind in exclusives. So they had to start making the same plays that Sony did, which is carving out games for their service. So yeah, everyone's dancing around it, and I kind of get why, but as far as I can tell, here's how the business is shaking out. And Bruce, you're talking about bad business. It's bad business right now. But I think the way the dynamic will shake out is you need to own the big IP. You have to have that just ongoing, endless spray of money from a successful games of service if you want to play in the corpo realm. That also means that a AA game like Hildebrand is saying will never sell enough. It never ever will to matter. You can have 100 indie hits, and I haven't actually crunched the math, but it's just not the same as Call of Duty as a whole entity in a machine that earns money and generates it. So I think the thing is, you need indie hits though to give your platform vibrancy and to spur growth. So here's the model that I think Microsoft is progressing towards, and they probably should have been 10 years ago. Is that they had to make these big acquisitions to get the big IPs. They had to get Tango because it came with Bethesda, which came with Elder Scrolls and Fallout. But it's not profitable or not even money efficient to operate a studio at that layer if you want Fallout level revenue. So now what they do is they got to cut all this weight. They can just license indie games for a song way less than it costs to develop them in-house. And occasionally you get your Pal World. You get a Hi-Fi Rush, maybe, but you didn't have to pay for it to be made. You just paid a small check to get it on your service. And that way they mitigate their risk. They can shoot the dice more on these indie games that stand to expand Game Pass, and they don't have to pay the bill. Whereas they do have to pay the upkeep of the big brands that actually bring in global revenue. So yeah, Microsoft's going to cut all their darling studios. The thing is, this can settle out okay if all of those studios move down a layer and are suddenly working for Annapurna or Blumhouse or Devolver or New Blood or limited run games, any number of those middle tier 505, any number of those publishers that don't have aspirations to make Call of Duty money and can operate just fine without it. So they make those games at that level. The corpos license them, they pluck them out of obscurity occasionally and shower money upon the publisher, and then ostensibly everyone gets to keep their job. I really hope that's where we land in about 10 years, so we'll see. Sorry, I had a whole lot banked up there, but I've been thinking about this all week, trying to make it make sense, you know?
Yeah, it's like they can just license Stardew Valley rather than having to pay Concerned Ape for 10 years to make it. Once it's big, they're like, yep, we'll take it.
What you guys are describing is the end of Game Pass, basically. The Game Pass experiment, it'll change, but this is what they were doing, is they're just throwing money at the Game Pass subscription, hoping that it would explode and continue, like Lawrence said, an endless spray of money. But it unfortunately is not doing that. And so now a lot of people are losing their jobs because of it.
Yes. Yeah, because everybody who wants Game Pass has it at this point, I think.
Oh, just one last observation. I think, to me, the turning point in all this was Starfield. It was the acquisition too, but I think they really expected Starfield to grab them tons of Game Pass that would give them a runway to coast. And I don't think it did that. It didn't sell Xbox consoles, and it didn't really spike Game Pass subs. So
next up, after all these years, Nintendo finally confirmed that they're working, well, maybe not the Switch 2, but a new console. In a statement from company president Shuntaro Furukawa, he said, "We will make an announcement about the successor to Nintendo Switch within this fiscal year. And if you don't want to do the math, I don't blame you." He basically means that sometime before the end of March 2025.
All right, well, the announcement comes after the Switch has been out for more than 7 years and obviously needs an update, but like Lawrence said, it is an endless spray of money. So they've been using it as much as they could.
Why stop the train before it pulls into the final station, man?
That's right.
Nintendo's been pretty brilliant about squeezing every last cent out of the Switch. Speaking of, Furukawa added that they will hold a Nintendo Direct in June regarding the current Switch lineup for the back half of 2024. But he wrote that there will be no mention of the Switch successor during that presentation.
I wonder if any company has gone from bust to boom the way Nintendo did from the Wii U to the Switch. Because they went from nothing to this. I read somewhere that this is like their best phase ever. Like, this is their peak better than the Wii, better than anything.
Most profitable. Yeah.
But yeah, on the heels of that announcement, we also got a possible leak of the new console specs. This comes from Android Authority. I wouldn't expect them to have a Switch leak, but they reported that the next console is rumored to have an 8-inch screen using DLSS to support ray tracing, boosted by 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM. It'll also allegedly have the NVIDIA Tegra T239 and 256 gigs of storage.
As for a release date, like we kind of talked about earlier, it should be coming fairly soon. The leaker said Nintendo is shooting for a March 2025 release, and will have both physical and digital backward compatibility with the original Switch games. Lawrence and I had been predicting a holiday release for this, but they've been delaying it a little more. So
yeah, I thought they said it wouldn't be in this fiscal year, which would put it after March 25. But I guess we'll see. Nintendo did launch the Switch in March just to get it in the previous year's fiscal, so maybe they'll do that again.
That's right, yeah.
Speaking of, the next console will allegedly have integrated microphones and switch to micro SD express cards for additional storage.
Next up, Hades 2, already making waves. The sequel to the 2018 beloved hit, because it was awesome. It's out in early access, already drawing a lot of attention. VGC reported that the May 6th early access launch hit a peak of more than 79,000 concurrent players within the first 24 hours on Steam.
Man, that's great. And the last time we checked SteamDB, it had peaked at more than 103,000 players. That's way above the original Hades lifetime peak of 37,749 concurrent players. So that's great.
Yeah, especially in contrast to some of the earlier stories. There's still a lot of success out there. It just occurs at different tiers. Speaking of success, the early access version got a 9 out of 10 from IGN, which wrote, "Even in its early access state, Hades 2 is just about everything one could ask for in a sequel to one of the best roguelites of all time."
I didn't even know they were reviewing early access games. That's just so weird, but that's great.
If people will click on it, they'll review it.
Yeah, well, great point. Full release date yet to be announced, but Supergiant said they expect it to be in early access at least through the end of 2024. And yeah, a good reminder that there's so many talented people making good games. There's so much good stuff.
All right, next story. Suicide Squad cost Warner Brothers $200 million. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has been a very expensive disaster for Warner Brothers. Insider Gaming reports the game, which launched in January to a unanimous chorus of boos, except for maybe Lawrence and I, has cost its parent company some $200 million in revenue.
This is the fallout of the Microsoft model, so we'll see how it plays out for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the company's Q1 earnings report, Warner Brothers said that the game's release was disappointing and that it generated significantly lower revenues.
Truly the Rooster Teeth of video games. Yes.
Ironic, it's also WB.
But yeah, y'all probably read about this. The game had a troubled history, to say the least, multiple delays. Feedback was bad even before the full launch. And it currently is sitting at a critic rating of 60 on Metacritic and a user rating of 3.5 out of 10. I guess the 3.5 came from you two.
Yeah, I know. It feels like it.
All right, let's do a 5-second review.
I haven't played this, so it's all you, Brian.
It's a Metroidvania with Bambi and other forest creatures.
And it's called Animal Well, right?
Yeah, it's getting great reviews. You should try. It's got like a 9 or something. It's a 90 on Metacritic.
I heard it's great. I heard it's great.
It's really good. The ambience. Man, you just throw on some headphones and vibe hard. I really like the art style too.
All right, let's cover the upcoming games for this week. First up, Homeworld 3. Tactical, beautiful, and wholly unique. The Game of the Year winning sci-fi RTS returns with Homeworld 3. Assume control and battle through fleet combat and dazzling fully 3D space while the award-winning story unfolds on a galactic scale. It's coming to PC on May 13th.
So Rogue Prince of Persia was supposed to come out this week, but I think they got scared because of Hades 2. We will still be releasing in May, and we'll be back with a precise date on Monday. And they posted that today. Holy shit, at 4 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so they emergency last minute delay. The Rogue Prince of Persia is being shoved to some other week in May. So instead, to fill the void, we got Braid Anniversary Edition. If you like your old games, control the flow of time. Sounds like Prince of Persia. To solve puzzles in this new version of the indie classic featuring fully repainted artwork, a new world of puzzles, and seriously in-depth commentary. This game's hitting pretty much everything. Android, iOS, PC, PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S on May 15th.
Next up, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. A woman summoned by an eccentric man to participate in a project in an old hotel somewhere in Central Europe. This sounds really bad. Becomes embroiled in a game of illusions, increasingly dangerous and surreal. Now you're invited to fall down into the same rabbit hole in a non-linear mystery with an immense amount of handcrafted puzzles constantly presenting you with new riddles to solve, each leading you closer to deciphering the enigma of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. It comes to PC and the Switch May 16th.
On one of my favorites, maybe of all time, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. For the very first time on PC, play through Jin Sakai's journey and discover the complete Ghost of Tsushima experience in this Director's Cut. In the late 13th century, the Mongol empires laid waste to entire nations along their campaign to conquer the East. Tsushima Island is all that stands between mainland Japan and a massive Mongol invasion fleet led by the ruthless and cutting general Khotun Khan. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut on PC also offers up the Legends cooperative multiplayer modes, which introduce a range of fresh missions and objectives, as well as a new game plus mode and an additional single-player campaign expansion which unfolds on the entirely new Iki Island landmass. Comes to PC May 16th.
Can't wait to link my PSN and get those trophies. Get a little bling blong on the PC. Love it. As we enter the back half of the roundup here, we want to call out, it's time for a humanities package, little human interest tale. Every week we like to select Inside Games as Inside Gamer, and this week it's the dude who nuked Phil Spencer's camp in Fallout 76. Players noticed this on the map, saw like the big red circle around his camp. Kotaku actually reached out to the person who fessed up to it and interviewed them. So there's a couple of fun quotes. He was the final boss in my eyes, said real 1090 Jake. In RPG, I prefer to be the bad guy. I like that. So we got our RPG villain in Fallout 76, but real 1090 Jake said this was a calculated attack. Lol. I have no beef with Phil. Phil's cool. Fallout 76 is cool. So
it's a calculated attack, but I have no beef.
Not catching any smoke there. Just dropping a random nuke on a gaming executive. But
no beef, but it's calculated, but no beef.
Salutes to you, Inside Games as Inside Gamer.
Speaking of people that we don't have any beef with, the Inside Games patrons. They support our Patreon every single month. And they've somehow found it within their hearts to forgive Phil Spencer, Ryan Dareberry, Sherwin Sanchez, Rook, Captain Coldblood, or Pitstrip.
Got a lot of forgiveness in you, but I got some patrons that have none. They're going to carry this grudge to their graves. Loveless, Ray Pichardo, Scotty Ryan, and Keita White. It'll burn you out, but it feels good. You know what? Barbie wasn't that good either. Blam. Blam.
Wow.
Blam. I didn't like Oppenheimer either, though, so whatever.
Man, you are going hot right now.
I didn't finish it. I got bored. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to finish it. Yeah.
This is all solid outtake stuff. People are going to love this.
Bye.